Hello, can you all hear me? I want to be sure you can hear me. Let me know if you can hear me. Yay, excellent. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you all. About to get started. You are welcome. Welcome, guys. Now go to the thank you. Thank you for those of you welcoming me back. So go to the chat and let me know where you're joining from. Where are you joining from? I'd like to know. Awesome, awesome. Okay, I'm going to drop the attendance link here. Let me know those that are joining early. So go ahead and fill the form. Okay, it's exciting to be back home, and we're going to continue from where we stopped. Gentlemen and ladies, we've been discussing value creation. We've been discussing value creation. What does it take to be a value creator? You walk into a space, you walk into an environment, you walk into an organization, you are seen as a value creator. You are seen as a problem solver. Yeah, that is the essence of this whole masterclass. And my role is to show you what it involves, what it takes to be a value creator, basically, to be someone who adds value wherever you have found yourself. Remember, I did say that you have to be a value creator You have to be a value creator who then creates value, right? You have to be a value creator because as a value creator, it's in you to create value. It's in you to create value. Some person may create value who is not a value creator, and it's okay. So it's a question of becoming. You become in order to do and in order to have. And that is the sequence. You first of all become. It's in the becoming. These days, we have a generation of people who don't want to become before they have. And I'm here telling you that you want to first of all become. It's in the becoming that you can then be able to do. It's in the becoming that you then be able to do. Your ability to do is dependent upon your first of all becoming, your ability to become. I become, then I do. I become, then I do. So I create value after I have become a person of value creator. You get that right. So don't yearn to create value when you have not become a value creator. And what does it take to be a value creator? I took time the first 2 days or 3 days even to give you the character for value creation. And I want to encourage you to go back to those videos and to watch them. What does it take? So there are characters. There are characters for value creation. There are attitudes for value creation. Once you catch them, you start running and you become intentional about it. And creation of value, problem solving becomes a natural thing. It becomes your way of life, right? But you have to become a person of value first of all. And I'm careful in saying this because um, if I just give you the tools for value creation without first of all helping you to become value creators, I wouldn't have helped you. I wouldn't have helped you because every other time new tools emerge, and it's not possible for me to exhaust all the tools for value creation. I can only give you a few, but what you need to do is to become. When you become, then it's easy for you to even search out all the tools you need. But in this section, in this class anyway, what I will do is to give you a few tools that can help you do the projects I want you to do. Yeah, that's the whole essence of the master class. First of all, become, then be able to do. When you are now able to do, then you can have. So that's the sequence. You become, then you do, then you have. Has someone gotten that sequence? It's important to me that you get that sequence so that you can be a value creator. Yes. Then we can say you are a value creator. Okay, so this evening we're going to jump into something else, and I'm excited about it. But let me first of all say that the masterclass series we're having is for primarily for people who apply to the YL fellowship this year, primarily. But we have opened it up because that is worth doing, right? We have opened it up for any other person who cares to be a value creator. Maybe you didn't have an opportunity to apply to the YL fellowship. You care to be a value creator. This is an opportunity for you. Participate, go back, watch the videos, and then be part of what we're doing. I'm going to eventually, before we are going to give you a certificate and you become part of our community. And we're going to be inviting you, pay attention to what I'm about to say. We're going to be inviting you to some um, exclusive sections. Assuming you were not selected into the Y fellowship eventually, and but you're part of our community, we'll invite you to some exclusive YL fellowship sections. Yeah, so we'll extend some invitations to you. You come and listen to what Y fellows are doing and all this kind of stuff because you're part of our community. So that's why it's important that you get the certificate we're going to give you in this series as a value creator. And that is also why you have to be part of our community. Is that clear? Yeah. Why is this whole thing important? It's because we need to speak the same language. I mean, if you join the community, there are things I do not expect to hear from someone that is part of the community, the value creators community, or part of the wire fellowship community. No, there are things we don't expect of you because we hope that you would have been circumcised, Yeah, that's the way it goes. So that's why I'm taking my time to pass you through this series. That said, in the next few days, by next week particularly, I would release to you the exact project you'll be doing, you'll be working on, the exact project you'll be working on. I'll release that to you. And you go ahead and work on your project within 1 week. And we expect you to submit the project. And then I will take my time with my team to assess it. If you have turned in something amazing, we would, of course, give you an opportunity to then be a bona fide participant in the YL Fellowship. Yeah, you become part of the YL Fellowship 2025. And this opportunity is for just 10 people. Good. Um, yeah, but more than 10 people will get the certificate, right? I hope that's clear. But just 10 people that are top performers would be part of the YL Fellowship. Yeah. And also in the value creation stuff project I'm going to give to you, I'm looking forward to seeing people who would actually make some level of impact with the project already. They'll make some level of impact. They would even make money out of it. In the course of executing that project. It's this thing is real. This thing is practical. I'm not teaching theory here, or I don't have time to do that. I'm about helping people. I'm about uplifting people. I'm about inspiring and motivating people to find out the best version of themselves, to unravel the best version of themselves. That is it. To live for impact. That is it. I want to inspire you to be a value creator. That's why we're doing this. Yeah. So why I said this tonight's section is important is because I'm going to give you a very simple tool you're going to use it's going to be a fundamental tool, foundational tool for you to solve the problems we're going to be giving to you. Okay. Very foundational tool. If you're anything else we've been teaching, you find a way to capture them in this simple tool, and then we go from there. Yeah. Okay. So in case you're just joining, there is an attendance sheet I have dropped. Let me drop it again. Please, tonight's attendance is important to me because I'm going to use it to evaluate attendance for this program effectively. That said, I like you guys to invite your friends. Let's try to get the number of persons on this live call to be at least 100 tonight. Let's hit 100. And I'm going to open up the WhatsApp group in case you want to tag someone, in case you want to encourage folks to join. So I'm going to have you all be part of that process. Okay, I'm going to have you all be part of that process. Okay, that is done. Now let us jump into today's section. Do we remember all that we have been teaching? Have we taken time to go through all the topics we have taught, because they build on each other? The last time I gave you a video to watch, and that video was on vision for innovation. Please, I'd like to know who watched that video. You have seen that video on how to build a vision for your innovation work, because that video is critical. Make sure you've seen that video. Please make sure you've seen that video. Make sure you have seen that video. Thank you for those of you who have taken time to watch that video. It's important. Tonight's section is actually going to be a short one, because I just give you the tool and then you do with it. You go back, and I will also share the slides. So you guys should remind me. I will share the slides after this section. Okay, Fernando, you watched the video and you have a question. Can I answer just one of the questions you have from watching the video? If anyone else has any questions from watching the video, please go ahead and drop it. It's important to me that you watched that video and you understood everything. All right, let me know if you have any questions from watching the video, and I'll be glad to answer it. Okay, so as that goes on, please, the problem you're going to be solving in this program is going to be a sustainable development goal related problem. Yeah. So what I expect you to do is to look around in your environment, look around in your organization, look around in your own company, wherever. Identify identify three problems that exist in these places. Identify three problems that exist in these places, okay, that you think you should solve. Just start identifying them. I'll tell you what to do about these problems. So you already start to identify these problems. And I want to give you an advice. A value creator is someone who has the eyes to see what others cannot see. You have the eyes to see opportunities when others cannot see. Yeah. So be the person who has the eyes to see opportunities. And I've taken my time to give you characteristics, how to identify opportunities. All right. I've taken my time to do that. So go watch the videos. So use those principles to identify three problems. All right, Fernando, you're asking a question. You say, according to Parkinson's law, when I am drifting beyond the agreed scope and risking the loss of time and resources, how should I professionally respond to the issue? Oh, that's a brilliant question. You see, if you didn't watch the video, this question will not make sense to you because you would not know what Parkinson's law is. Yeah, and I'm not going to help you. Go and watch the video. But then to answer your question, Fernando, it's simple. You need to go back to the agreed scope. That is it. You need to go back to the agreed scope. You need to go back to the agreed scope. You need to go back to the agreed scope. That is the essence of vision. That's the essence of vision. That's the essence of that vision brief you need to prepare. That is it. Let it be your guide. Let it be your guide. Okay. You need to go back to the agreed scope with respect to time. With respect to time. With respect to resources. Because if I ask you to do a task and I don't give you any time limit, I don't give you any resource limit, the truth about it is that you're going to remain on it. You're going to remain on it. So don't find yourself in that situation. Professionally, if you have found yourself drifting, it's okay to drift. That is why you need to find yourself going back. And there are tools that enable us to do that. First of all, is their vision brief. You need to have your vision brief. You need to have your vision brief. And one of the other tools that I have seen very useful is the stage gate process. There's something called the stage gate process. I don't know. I'll encourage you to browse it up and read it up. Okay. It has a way to guide the processes. So you move from one stage in your project to the other stage. And for each stage you get to, there is an evaluation to be sure that You are in line with both the resources, you're in line with both the timeline and every other thing that is required in that whole process. So stage gate process is a point where we evaluate and to because our ability to have stayed in line. Okay, you meet the criteria, then you can go on to the next process, to the next stage of the project. So you can look that up, but the easy way is to always have your guide, which is the vision brief. Okay, so if you're listening to us and you're wondering what we're discussing, I want to encourage you to go back to that video on the vision brief. All right. Okay. All right. Thank you. I hope I try to help you on that. And by the way, most times for you to build valuable things, you need to have a team. For you to build a lasting, sustainable value, yeah, you need to have a team. So one of the things the team helps you is also to guide you in this process, keep you accountable, basically, right? So that you don't basically go beyond the scope that is required of you. That accountability system is important, and there are different frameworks that have emerged to keep track and to keep people on their toes. Different frameworks, one of which is the RASI framework, but I don't want to go so wide outside of what we want to discuss tonight. We can always come back to some of these, but vision brief is the answer to your question. Stick to it. All right. So tonight we're going to be discussing an interesting concept, and I would that you use this concept to for your project, right? For your project. It's called the CPS, Creative Problem Solving Tool. You use it to unlock innovation through structured creativity. There is a way to do stuff. There is a way to solve problems. And this is a very simple tool which I like you to use. So most of you may have heard about the design thinking tool. This for me is a similar tool, but I prefer it for what I want guys to do. I prefer this for what I want you guys to do. So we're going to jump into it. You're welcome, Fernando. All right. So what is creative problem solving? What is creative problem solving? This is a structured method for approaching challenges in innovative ways. One thing I'd like you to pick from this is that it is structured. It is structured. It is structured. It goes beyond traditional logic. It goes ahead to spark your imagination and generate what unique solutions. So there is a formula to always generate unique solutions. There is a structured way to always generate unique solutions. And that is what I bring to you tonight. A structured way. Anytime you are woken up from the sleep and you ask, solve this problem, there is a method to do that. And that is what I bring to you tonight. You're going to use this structure, you're going to use this framework to approach the problem that you're going to be solving in this master class. So why does this system matter? Why does this CPS system matter? It matters because of what I call accelerated thinking. It helps you overcome mental blocks and routine thinking. Yeah. So let's say you ask, look, this is a problem, solve it. This is a problem, solve it. What do you really do? What do you do? So what happens is that sometimes we have mental block. We can't think any further. We get stuck. We get stuck. First of all, we try to recollect, we try to understand where we are. We get lost, depending on how complex the problem is, depending on the context. The problem can overwhelm us most of the time, right? Or we find ourselves by default thinking through that problem in a very routine way, in a very traditional way. But you this evening have access to a very dynamic tool which can always be handy for you to solve problems. You have a very dynamic tool which you can always use to solve problems. Yeah. So that once you have a problem, you don't need to think too much. You flip open your toolbox and you come up with the CPS system. All right. You grab the CPS system, you start using it immediately. Nobody takes you unawares. You're a value creator by default. So you start creating solutions by default. That's the CPS system I'd like to bring to you. And there are components of this system that we'll keep discussing the next 2-3 days. Yeah. But tonight is to introduce it. And then we go from there. The next reason why you want to get this is because of breakthrough solutions. What happens with this tool is that it gives you an opportunity to ask questions that ordinarily you wouldn't have asked. It helps you to come up with ideas, with solutions that ordinarily you would not have been able to come up with, you and your team, because it stretches you, because it's a methodology that is quite dynamic. By the time you start using it, you don't know what the solution might be in the end. So is that dynamic, right? That is why I like to introduce it to you as a value creator. Culture of innovation. So what happens with this tool is that if you start using it in your team, then your team can be adjudged to be innovative, because then you're going to start becoming very innovative in your approach. You can become a kind of persons that you have a structured way in which you can solve any problem that arises, and you all can be speaking the same language because it's a methodology which everyone understands it. You start speaking the same language at that level, you start communicating at that level, and nothing becomes overwhelming for you as a people, right? So this is a wonderful culture to have. Now, there is something I call wholesome thinking. Why did I title it wholesome thinking? Is because there are two types of thinking patterns in innovation. When we say innovation, two types of thinking patterns. So we have convergent. In fact, let me start with divergent thinking process, and then we have the convergent thinking process. These two are usually there when we talk about creativity and innovation, right? Now, what is divergent thinking? So divergent thinking is where you open up your mind to ideas. There is such a time when you open up your mind to ideas, when the emphasis is on the quantity and not the quality. When for you, it's about how many ideas can I come up with? How much ideas can I come up with? Because I like to appeal to the aspect of it being even uncountable number of ideas. When I do workshops in ideation, I tell my students to generate 99 ideas to solving a problem, 99 ideas in 15 minutes. So in 15 minutes, I like you to generate 99 ideas, right? So what does that do? What happens there is that some people will generate crazy ideas, stupid ideas, but it doesn't matter at this stage. It's the divergent process. We diverge for quantity. You diverge for the numbers, okay? And the more you do that, the more you stretch your mind, the more ideas, the more you tune up your antenna to tap to realms, to realms that ordinarily you would not have any business getting into, because now you're stretching your mind. In fact, the ideas that come in towards the end of the time is actually the ideas that matter the most. So we give them some tips in which they can use to come up with very, very unbelievable ideas. So that is divergence. That is divergence. Then there is the convergence. All these ideas, what do we do with them? What do we do with all these ideas? There are systems in which we can also do what? Bring them narrow, to kind of, by the end of the day, you see what happens is that these 99 problems, or whatever number of problems it is, ideas you come up with, you can converge them to just one idea. Yeah, you can condense them to just three ideas. You can bring them together to the most fantastic ideas possible from the numbers you have generated. And that is what we call convergence thinking. Convergence thinking. So we're also going to see how this works. The innovation management process involves these two. In fact, for at different stages, you're going to find yourself doing divergence and convergence, divergence and convergence. That's how it goes. Now, this is a reproducible process because a team can always hold on to it and master it and reproduce it any other time that it is required. Now, this is what I like to tell you about this process. It involves clarifying the problem, and I like to take it one after the other. How do you clarify the problem? I've taught you in this class that you don't just jump into any problem that comes. You have to pay attention to the problem and reduce it to a solvable mode, to a solvable point. All right. Problems are supposed to be reduced to a solvable point. And this is important for every value creator. Don't take problems at face value. Don't take problems at face value. You have to reduce them to a minimum solvable point. Minimum solvable point. That is the best way to approach a problem. Okay. So you have to clarify that. You have to clear your thinking about the problem. That's the first thing you do. The second thing you do is to then generate ideas to solve it. You generate ideas to solve it. You see, um, one thing about naive people, ordinary men, when it comes to solving problems, ordinary men take up problems at the surface value, but it's never so. It's never so. Problems can never be approached at the at the level you met them. Don't don't do that. You can't approach a problem at the level you met it. No, you can't approach a problem at the level you met it. That's a rule of thumb. That's a rule of thumb. You have to reduce it to minimum solvable point. Okay, good. Now, the next thing you do is to generate ideas. Um, So one thing I advise is for guys to build up their creativity muscle. Creativity muscle. Okay. Build up your creativity muscle. How do you do that? If you're a kind of person, and this thing I'm telling you is something I've done at a season in my life, and I know what happened to me. I did at a season in my life and I know the results. So every day. And this was when I was studying in Israel, when I was a master student in Israel. So what I was doing is, my intent was really to build up my ability to come up with crazy ideas. So what I was doing is that I got a journal, and every day I would generate some crazy ideas, some crazy ideas. Like I come into the class now, So what happened was that I was training myself, I was training my mind to be open to ideas. I was training my mind to be open to ideas. So and it's a thing that, remember, I've taught you guys about portals and all that stuff. But once you have this ability to generate ideas, it can only grow. You keep growing it. You keep growing it. It's just like someone who wants to build their muscles. You just have to go to gym, right? You go to gym. When you stop going to gym, your muscles start atrophying. But the idea here is for you to get into the realm of ideation and let it come with ease for you. Let it come with ease for you. Let it come with ease for you. Yeah. So generate ideas. The next one is when you have generated ideas, gentlemen and ladies, ideas are different from solutions. Please note that. Ideas are different from solutions. When you generate ideas, the next thing is to come up with solutions from those ideas. Squeeze out solutions from ideas. Squeeze out solutions from ideas. So what happens at ideas? Remember, it is what divergence. Then at solutions is what convergence. So at solutions, you want to make sure you come up with um, you're able to evaluate the ideas you've come up with, refine them, and give you something that is practical, something that is of high impact, right? Something that is sustainable. We have criteria to assess a solution, and you're going to learn those. Then from there, you implement, you then implement and evaluate, you then implement and evaluate. So so that is the process, that is the framework, that is the framework. I'm going to now take each one and give more insight into each one. Okay, Fernando, you're asking, is the idea an input and solution and output? No, the input. So it all depends, right? What the context is. It depends on what the context is. How I like to see input is the problem you want to solve is part of the input. Sometimes you may not even have it, you may not consider it as input. The things that will come in as input would then be some of the resources you're bringing in to solve the problem. So it depends on the context. But idea is not necessarily an input, it's part of the process in itself. It's part of the process in itself that is introduced at some point, right? But the solution can be the output. But as you're starting, why an idea is not an input is because at the point you're starting, it wasn't in existence. It wasn't in existence. So it comes in at some point in the process. Okay. It is generated in the process. It's generated in the process. But certain things came in as inputs, while others are generated in the process. But something will become the output by the end of the day, which is the solution. Okay. Right. Ah, beautiful. Aude is asking, do all problems have a solution? Do all problems have a solution? Yeah, so let me answer that question. It depends. But there is no problem that does not have a solution. There is no problem that does not have a solution. Okay. There is no problem that doesn't have a solution, but it depends on the context. Because what could be a solution in one context may not necessarily be a solution in another context. But every problem has a solution. Just have that as settled in your mind. Have that settled in your mind. If it is a problem, if it's identified as a problem, it's a problem because there is an opportunity it's hiding. There's opportunity behind it. And inside any opportunity is a seed for its solution. There is no problem that doesn't have an opportunity behind it. And inside every opportunity is the seed of a solution for it. Okay, so and this is a very important. There is a whole concept around this that for any problem, you don't need to go far to look for the solution. The solution is hidden inside it. So if it identifies as a problem, that means there is a solution. and it's only those who have that ability to unravel, to unearth that problem, that will be able to see the solution in it. There is always a seed in every fruit, right? So that's the way you want to look at it. So number one is to clarify the problem. So this is where you ask, what is really going on here? What's really going on here? You want to ask that question. And there are tools we use for it. In this same series, I have taught you the root cause analysis, where you ask your five whys, where you ask your five whys. Do you remember? So you use this process to get to the root cause of the problem. And also, um, we generally advise that you're able to go out there and do a stakeholder mapping for every problem. So for every problem, there are people who are stakeholders to every problem. There are stakeholders. Identify who these stakeholders are. You need to identify who these stakeholders, and you talk to them. And you talk to them and know what they know about their problem. Know what they know about the problem. It's a whole series and lecture on it, on how to actually do this. We call it in-depth interview, we call it ethnographic research, because you need to be able to go observe the people who own the problem. How are they going through this problem? What can you tell me about this problem? What can I observe about how you're coping with this problem, right? So these are important aspects that must be um, unraveled by you who wants to solve the problem. So you are going to go out there and talk to the stakeholders you have mapped out um, around this problem. So when that is done, you're going to have a problem statement. The output is a problem statement. The output for problem clarification is problem statement. The output of problem clarification is problem statement. The output for problem clarification is problem statement. So I expect that each person, for the problem you have chosen to solve, you're going to have a problem statement. Okay, are we together on that? Very important. That is clarifying. By the time you have understood all you need to know about this problem, based on how you have been able to map the problem, then you can then what come up with a problem statement. Excellent. When you have come up with the problem statement, it's time for you to solve the problem. It's time for you to solve the problem. Um, and it's by generating ideas. Generating ideas. One of the things that happen in solving problems, once you have the problem statement, the problem is actually 70% solved. Or sorry, no, the problem, you have 70% to go. The problem is 30% solved. Once you have identified the problem, in fact, people say 30 to 50% solved. Once you're able to say, look, this is the exact problem we are solving, the problem is already 30 to 50% solved. Yeah. So then it's time for you to generate ideas. Problem clarification is done by the team. I repeat that. Problem clarification is done by the team. Problem clarification is done by the problem solver, by the team. However, ideation can be done by outsiders. For ideation, I can invite other people to come and help me. Experts in the field, I can invite them to come and help me. Because you know what happens is that at the point of problem clarification, once you have clarified the problem and all that, it's time for you to build up your vision brief, right? You have your vision brief. So that can be best done by the team itself, by the team. You have to do it. The team has to do it. The team has to be involved in it so that you don't get a lot of noise and people imposing their own visions and all of that stuff on the team. After that is done, you then go to generating ideas. But for generation of ideas, please feel free to invite outsiders, to invite experts, because that divergence of thought, of insight, is required most of the time for the best outcome. Remember, this is now the divergence time, right? So it's always important to involve outsiders. So in doing this, quantity is better than quality. At this point, you don't want to discourage anybody. You want to encourage wild ideas. You want to defer judgment. All right. People should bring in as many ideas as they can bring in. It's okay. Then from there, um, um, once these ideas have come, you make a list of them. You display them in a way that people can easily access them. And we use different tools such as mind mapping to do this, right? Scamper, brainstorming, what if scenarios. But in this series, in this masterclass, I'm going to teach you guys Scamper. I'm going to teach Scamper. I'm going to highlight the important things you need to know about brainstorming right here, right here. And then maybe if you have time, we do mind mapping. But in the next class or so, I'm going to teach on Scamper. But what you need to know in generating ideas is that it's a divergent process. Um, Brainstorming can be used to do it. Brainwriting can be used to it. But let me just talk about brainstorming. Brainstorming is where you bring in all these experts, and I've encouraged you to bring in outsiders as well. You state the problem, and then you give them the tools. Usually, people are given sticky notes and they are writing down the ideas, and they're going to drop it on a platform. Some other times, they just verbalize their ideas, and someone is also noting those things down. The idea is the more the idea is generated, the better for the better the it is, with respect to the outcome by the end of the day. Contrasting it with the one we call brain writing. Brain writing is where nobody really talks. You write down the ideas on a sheet of paper and you place it in on the table where any other person can access it. When you read it, it inspires, it triggers some more ideas. When I read the ideas you have come up with, it triggers some other ideas for me. So that is brainwriting. The ideas are written down, placed on the table, and people, that sheet of paper can basically be passed around. People can access it, and then it triggers some more ideas. So there are different ways in which we can generate ideas, but the idea of ideation is simply to generate as many ideas as possible. So in brainstorming, there is a facilitator for the process. In today's world, where work is done virtually, you can use any of these platforms. You can use WhatsApp, you can use Slack, you can use any of these platforms to do this. But some companies have developed very, ideal, specific for use in brainstorming scenarios. Yeah, to do ideation. But of course, you can use WhatsApp. When I do my trainings, I use WhatsApp to do this. So with WhatsApp, people can just is based done live. People can use it to generate ideas and um, over a period of time. And the idea for brainstorming is do it over a short period of time. You don't extend the time so long. You do it over a quick period of time, and a short period of time, and people are able to tax and stretch their mind within that period of time. That is the fun aspect of it. You defer judgment. Any idea anybody writes down is okay for that moment. So a broad list of possible solutions, actually possible solutions, yeah. But that is what it is: possible solutions, ideas. They are generated at this stage. Okay, so let me see some questions people are asking at this stage. So someone is saying, how do you ensure that the team is motivated to participate in problem identification if you don't have enough incentive to do so? It's for you to incentivize them. I mean, you need to understand that when we talk about motivation, there are is another whole conversation. Is another whole conversation. You have to identify these two kinds of motivation, right? There is the intrinsic motivation, there is the extrinsic motivation. So you as the leader of the team should be about knowing how best to use these two kinds of motivation to inspire a team to. It's not only about problem identification, it's about anything else involved in value creation. The people involved have to be incentivized to do so. How about exploring journey maps? Yes, um, journey mapping is another way that you can use to identify problems. We use it in problem identification. Yeah, we don't necessarily use it in ideation, but in problem identification. How solve problem with minimum solutions? How do you recognize a probable solution to a problem? How could you could invite experts? Okay, yeah. So, um, thank you for the questions. Some of them will get clearer as we proceed. All right. So the next thing you then do, now you have ideas, is to what? Generate solutions. You generate solutions from the ideas. Okay? Generate solutions. You develop solutions. This is the point of convergence. This is the point of convergence. Convergence. We need to now converge. We have diverged, it's time to converge. You need to now evaluate these ideas and basically remove the ones. First of all, do the first. So there are different levels of screening or evaluation we do on these ideas when you get them. And I'm telling you this, practically speaking, how we do it. You first of all remove redundancies. There are ones that don't make sense at all that would have been generated in the process. So you remove them from the list. They don't connect in any way to the problem. They are just so outside of what we want to do. So we call them redundancies. You remove them from the list. When you have removed them, the other. Can I move my screen up? What do you mean by moving my screen up? Is it this way? All right, but I'm already concluding, so let's concentrate and conclude. Yeah, so when you have generated the ideas, you want to what? You want to get them to become solutions. So what do? Remove redundancy, the ones that don't count. The ones that don't count, you remove them. When you have removed them, the remaining the remaining are now important. There are a couple of things we do with the remaining ideas. But one of the things I teach is that you can pass them through an evaluation matrix. You can pass them through an evaluation matrix. So, and that is what I want to talk to you about very briefly. So, in this evaluation matrix, you can have you can use your evaluation matrix to basically score some of the ideas you have generated. Yeah, to score some of the ideas you have generated, and from there you start narrowing down to solutions. You start narrowing down to solutions. But remember, if you watched my video on vision brief on innovation, vision for innovation, you're going to realize that this particular thing I'm talking about now, you're going to see where I highlighted it, where that you now must come to a point where these ideas are going to start converging to come to really solving the problem you set out initially to solve. How do you go about that? There are tools we're going to see in the coming days, such as the pros and cons, SWOT analysis, prototyping, impact effort metrics. But the evaluation metrics that you can easily use here is where you ask yourself, is which of these ideas is feasible? Which of these ideas actually solve the problem we set out to solve? which of these ideas makes sense to as desirable to the participants. So when you think about all of those, it has a way to take out the problems, the ideas that don't even matter. All right. But even before you come to these points, some depending on the number of ideas you have, you can begin to group them, group the ideas. So let's say for my teams or for my participants, my students, when they if they come up with up to 99 ideas, 99 is a lot of is a lot of ideas. So what we first of all do is to remove redundancies, and by the time we remove ideas that don't even matter at all, we may come up to about 60 ideas. So what do we do with 60 ideas? We put them in themes, in categories, in themes, right? So thematically categorizing these ideas. There are ideas that are talking about the same thing. Yes, these are different experts, but some of the ideas are talking about just the same thing. So those ideas talking about the same thing, you bring them together. Those ideas, you bring them together. I call them in themes. You bring them, put them in themes, in themes, in themes. By the end of the day, after putting them in themes, gentlemen and ladies, I tell you that these 60 ideas that are remaining may just even just now be just 10 ideas. That's the way it works. It's such an interesting system. You have about 10 ideas now because you have brought them together. You've brought them together. So what happens is that when they bring them together, I then ask them a simple question. These ideas you have brought together, how are we able to bring out one out of them? So you see, we may not have 10 clusters, right? In themes, right? 10 clusters. So we cluster these ideas. Let's say now we have 10 clusters. What do you do with these 10 clusters? So you summarize each of the clusters. By the end of the day, 99 problems have reduced to 10, sorry, 99 ideas have reduced to 10 what? Ideas. 10 ideas, right? Or what you can now begin to see as solutions. What you can now begin to see as solutions. Then you now pass them through that evaluation metrics. So in the evaluation metrics, you're asking which one is feasible, which one is really able to solve the problem, which one is feasible, which one is really able to solve the problem, and which one aligns with the goals we set out to initially with. Which one are the goals? Remember, goals. When I say the goals, we go back to the vision brief, because in the vision brief, you wrote down the goals, what you intended to achieve. That's why I was alluding to the vision brief. So these three criteria can easily now reduce the 10 ideas to about 4 ideas. Yeah. So now you have 4 solutions. Basically, you can now begin to call them solutions. It's from the ideas that we now have solutions. Now, this is a very, very important concept, which I'm saying it now. It sounds easy to say, but it's actually is very practical. It's actually very practical. And for some of you, we're going to walk through the practical aspect of this. I will going to do it in the next class. This is exactly what we did in the YR fellowship. Anyway, we do this a lot in the YR fellowship to narrow down to the ideas we're going to use. But I don't know. I think it's better. I don't know whether it's beyond the beyond the scope of this particular masterclass for us to do practical things on this. But just listening to me to know that the ideas you come up with, let's say you came up with 50 ideas, you came up with 20 ideas, you're going to narrow them. You're going to narrow them. And in narrowing them, what you do is to first of all remove the ones that don't really even make sense, if there are such. When you have removed the ones that don't make sense, you then cluster them, you put them in themes based on similarities. When you have put them in themes based on similarities, then the ones in clusters, you summarize them and pick one out of those clusters. All right. So sometimes it's difficult to summarize. It takes expertise, with practice and all, and guidance to summarize. But the rule of thumb sometimes I give to my students is to look out of all these problems within this cluster, which one is the most important? Out of all these ideas, which one is the most important idea? That becomes the summary. That becomes the one that survives out of that cluster, right? Good. So it all depends. Some other person will. Sometimes I can also look at the different ideas and I merge 2, 3 ideas out of that cluster, and it gives me the summary of that cluster. So it all depends, right? It all depends. As you practice it, you now know what works, given the context. Now, by the end of the day, you pass it through the evaluation metrics based on which one can be solved, which one is feasible, which one solves the problem, and which one aligns with the goal we started off with in the vision brief. That gives us right about our solution. But then there are interesting tools you can also use, such as the impact effort matrix. But then remember, guys, we're talking about developing solution now. It's not just about the imaginary solution. It's also at this stage that you begin to prototype it. You begin to prototype it. Now, this particular solution, three solutions I've come up with, for example, what do I do with them? What do I do with these solutions? Right? We expect you to prototype them. Development happens here. You prototype this, you prototype. But before you prototype, because sometimes it's better you to prototype one solution. It's better you prototype one solution instead of prototyping like four, right? So when you pass them through the evaluation metrics and you scoring them, maybe five points based on feasibility, based on which one is able to solve the problem, based on which one aligns with the goals we set out with, you can assign five marks. And it's completely up to you to decide how you want to do the scoring amongst in your team, right? So when you're able to finish, when you've done that, you come up with the one that scores the highest. You rank them. One scores the highest, one scores second highest, like that. You basically rank them based on the scores they get. This is very important, for you to understand the concept. Yeah. So sometimes if you're maybe just two people in the team doing this, you can all maybe agree, and that this is the one that is going to continue as the solution. That one that continues as the solution, gentlemen and ladies, there's something else we do with them. What we do with that solution is to ask ourselves, can this pass as the concept we're going to work with? Can this pass as the concept we're going to work with? So what I do is to pass them through another evaluation metrics to now ask the question, is this feasible? I ask that question again, is this feasible given the resources we now have, with the resources at our disposal now? Is this feasible? Is this desirable? Is this something that these particular guys we want to solve this problem for would want to desire? Is this something they're going to pay money for? Right? Is this something that can solve their problem really, for which they are willing to pay money to acquire? So is this something that is desirable for them? Then another one is this something that is viable? Are we going to make money from it? Are we going to really make money from it, such that by the end of the day, there is a business model that works for this particular solution? Is this something that is viable? The next question, is this scalable? Is this scalable? Is this something that we can maximize, we can take advantage, we can leverage the economies of scale, to grow? Is this something that the solution can serve not just 100 people, the solution can go on to serve 100 million people by the end of the day? Is this scalable, right? And finally, is this defensible? Is this something that cannot be easily copied? Okay, how can we make this thing not to be easily copied? By the time I evaluate, maybe I came up with like 2-3 solutions, and I pass them through this final evaluation matrix. The outcome is now what? A concept. The outcome is now a concept. So concepts are different from solutions. Concepts are a higher order of solutions, right? So this concept is now going to be solving the problem. It is this concept that I'm going to eventually go out there, test, and build a prototype around it. This is the one I like to build a prototype around. So for the project you guys are going to do, you're all going to do a prototype for me. You're going to do a prototype eventually for me. And that prototype is something you can just do with a PowerPoint. We're gonna probably have a section with you on prototyping. So it's something you're going to prototype somewhat for us. So by the end of the day, you have a prototype. So I call all of these are about developing. Development ends usually with you coming up with a prototype or a minimum viable a product. All right. So From there, we then start implementing and evaluating. Here is where we create action plans with timelines and responsibilities. You now start piloting and testing the solutions where necessary, right? Gather feedback and measure the impact and outcomes. So, gentlemen and ladies, this is actually the CPS. It is that brief, but for each of the components is dense. Each of the components is dense. So it's not linear. You can get to development stage, you now find out that the solution you now have doesn't actually measure up so much because you have gone testing it, you've gone passing it through the evaluation metric. You now find out that this doesn't really solve the problem you set out to solve. What happens? You go back to ideation, or you go back to those ideas you have, and you ask yourself, okay, how can we recluster these ideas? What are the ideas we missed out when we are trying to cluster? So you now go back to that point, right? Or you go back to ideation completely, inviting other experts. Guys, we need to crack this problem. Or you go back to the problem definition where you are trying to clarify the idea. You begin to ask yourself, oh, is this really the problem? Where you're trying to clarify the problem, you begin to ask yourself, is this really the problem we were supposed to solve in the first instance? Maybe we didn't even quite understand the problem. Oh, is there something else we can do? Who are the actual stakeholders we didn't quite talk to, right? So you begin to, it is iterative. It's not a linear process. Guys, problem solving is not linear. Guys, value creation is not linear. It is all back and forth process. And that is why in the next two classes or so, I'm going to bring to you a very important lecture you want to be around to see this spiraling nature of value creation. The spiraling nature of value creation is not a straight line. It's something you can always find yourself revisiting. That is the process for value creation. It's iterative. You test, you learn, you improve. You test, you learn, improve. Every value creator is a scientist. Every value creator is a scientist, someone who is able to go out there and run experiments, design experiments and run it. Every value creator is able to design experiments and run it. And if we have time in this series, I'm going to teach you very simple tips on how to run experiment, design an experiment and execute it and run it and test it. Okay, so encourage a growth mindset within the team. It's always important for the team to always learn, come attend trainings like this, learn and be willing to grow, because it's within that growth. Remember what I told you when I started this class. It's about you to become before you can be able to do. If you don't become, you can't do. So to the person that was asking the question, I think it was Fernando that was asking the question, someone else was asking the question, how do we motivate our team? You motivate your team by getting them to become. Sometimes we find ourselves in that situation where we want to motivate our team because they have not become. You're trying to force them to do what they have not become. You can't have them do what they don't have the ability to do, right? So that's why you have to get them to grow, first of all, to grow and to become. When they become, for them to do will become the easier aspect. All right. And that would be it for me to you tonight. Gentlemen and ladies, I know it's quite a technical class. You guys called for it. And that's why I'm bringing you very technical, difficult aspects now. I would like you to, come back to this video and watch it, come back to it and watch it so that you gain to really get the meat of it. And when you in the next class, you can always now ask questions, and then it gets clearer as you now go ahead to use this tool for your project. All right, let me take two questions and be out of your way. The idea is for you to become value creators. Don't miss the point. It's for you to be problem solvers, for you to be innovators. There is a process. Let us demystify this thing. It's not mysterious. And most times nobody has taught us that it's a process. There's a method to it. It doesn't just happen. These guys that do these things don't just wake up one morning and hey, they become innovators. It can happen once, but it's not a system that is sustainable, right? It's not sustainable. Fortune 500 companies will not call you to function in that in that state, in that position. You're going to have to prove that you understand the methodology. Whenever you wake me up, I'm a value creator because I have the skills to do, they have the tools, and this is what I like you guys to acquire from this whole um, series. Excellent. Thank you very much. I like you to come back to watch this video because it's not possible that it all went in. You're going to have to revisit it and revisit it, all right? And revisit it and revisit it. The slides will be shared in the WhatsApp group. I believe you all are in the WhatsApp group. And then we meet again. We are likely to meet again tomorrow, but it's unlikely to be 6 p.m. The meeting for tomorrow may be later, right? But I'm going to communicate that time um, tomorrow as well, right? So, but it was good hanging out with you tonight. Thank you so much for being around. I appreciate you all. I will have you to enjoy the rest of your night. Go ahead. Also, feel free to share the link to those that were not part of the class, and let them be be let them participate in what you have learned tonight. The problems we are supposed to work on, is it one problem of our community or the problem from which we started to create our respective organizations? It depends. It's up to you. For me, it has to just be a problem. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm gonna stop sharing this screen now. Yeah. So thank you all. Have a beautiful, beautiful night. Tomorrow's class or the next class we're going to have is even going to be more interesting and more technical as well. So you don't want to miss it. Bye bye.